Hey guys, so I wanted to start off by just giving a brief video, just kind of giving some helpful info regarding our course. I figured where better to do it than the beach since none of us can really go anywhere. I thought this might spice things up a little bit. So, some helpful info. What are the things I want to do? I want to focus on some definitions, okay? So, we've got things like primary source, secondary source, analytical essays, right? These are things that we're working with throughout the course of this term. So, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Now, as far as primary source goes, a primary source is something that someone studies for interpretation. Now, that's different for every field. For our purposes, a primary source is a piece of literature, whether it's a short story, a poem, a play. That's what we're focusing on. But if you are working in the sciences, it could be hard data that's collected out in the field. If you're working in history, it might be some sort of archival information, right? So it really depends on your field in terms of what a primary source is. Like, for example, for our first essay, the story of an hour would be a primary source for the text. Okay. Now, let's move on to secondary sources. So, secondary sources are written about a primary source, and it's written in a way to sort of explain something or to dig a little bit deeper into what that primary source is. So, an example would be a source that's written about the story of an hour. It's not the story of an hour itself, but it's something written about it. Okay. There are a couple, well, tons of different types of secondary sources out there. Websites can have secondary sources on them, blogs can have secondary sources, but we're not going to focus on those. Okay. What we're going to focus on is scholarly sources. Okay. Those are the big things. And you'll have another video that discusses what a scholarly source is, how to find them, but I'll give you the briefest rundown. Um, So, with scholarly secondary sources, it's all about the author and the audience, right? So, as far as the author goes, it's written by a scholar. So, someone who works or researches at a college or university, right? Someone with this advanced degree in the field that you're working with, someone who's an expert, okay? Now, that's about the writer. Now, as far as who the writer is writing for, you want this to be something that's written for other scholars or someone who is studying to become a scholar in this field, right? Because you want to make sure that it's at a level that we can trust that the information is something that's going to challenge us and that's going to challenge our ideas about our primary source. Okay, so that's the main focus. If you're looking at sources that you want to use as secondary sources, okay, so who is this written by? Are they an expert? And who is this written for? Is this written for experts? Right? So that's what you want to consider. Now, analytical essays analyze something, right? Analytical essays analyze something using your ideas and ideas presented in these scholarly secondary sources. So you want to, this is basically just a marriage of research and then your own personal interpretation. Now, what does that mean for us? Well, what that means is that in your essays, you're going to create an overarching argument about a primary source. Okay. And the primary source, is going to be whichever primary source text that you choose. This overarching argument is going to, it's going to be a general argument that the entire paper is focusing on. Okay, to explain this argument, you're going to use literary analysis, which is an explanation of the information found in the source material. But you're also going to be interpreting the information that you find done by scholars as well. So you're using their explanations, your understanding of their explanations, and kind of where they're coming from. They explain this well, so your interpretation should be fairly universal. But you want to use this information from your source material to back up not only your literary analysis, but also your overall argument as well. So you're going to utilize all of this material, your primary source, your secondary sources, and you're going to use those to create this overarching argument in your essays. Okay, so that's really what the focus is going to be here. So I just wanted to give you the briefest of rundowns that kind of touches on all those, general bases so that we're all on the same page. We know exactly what's to be expected. If you have any questions about any of these things that we talked about, let me know. Send me an email. Okay, I'm here to help. I want to make sure we all understand. All right, so until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day, do great things, and I will see you in another video.